message. To the top, ragamuffin keeps driving in every way. International, what they call me international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm when I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. Chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, when me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm when I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski.
Oh wow. wrong one. What is up, everybody? Can you hear me? Let me know in the chat. I think we're going to have to turn some lights on, but it's nice to see the sun hasn't gone away yet. Robert's in the house. Love to see it. Where's everybody tuning in from? G Brown, what's good? All right. Sean 808. Everybody's got so much better screen names than I do. Hi, JC. Robert. I think Robert's been on every single stream I've done. So, Isomatic. Loud and clear. G Brown, appreciate you. We got people tuning in from Ohio, London, Planet Robot. Nice. Yeah, listen. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Got a great stream lined up for you today. And it's going to be a year. The rest of the year is going to be crazy here on the channel for live streams. Lots and lots of live streams. Just like I said at the end of the year last year. And I think we came through with like 10 streams towards the end of the year. This year is going to be crazy. So make sure to subscribe. You know the drill. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't have to tell you anymore, but you got to subscribe. You got to hit the bell. You got to join the newsletter too. We always blast out a newsletter for these, and we'd love to have you. It's all about music making and having fun. Today, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest from Baby Audio. They just released an incredible synth. Hopefully you've seen my video on it by now. Hopefully you've checked the synth out by now. But we're going to be getting into the dirty with that. So I'm very excited. And I think the best thing to do, let me just check. All right, cool. Yeah, I think the best thing to do is just bring the guest on. Michael, how are you?
Very good. It's great to be with you.
Oh, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you. I'm really pumped to learn the in and outs of Atoms. And perhaps before we jump in, though, if you could just let the community know a little bit about yourself, your role at Baby Audio, and what we're going to be doing today. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, so my name's Michael. I'm a musician and an audio engineer, but also working on marketing for Baby Audio. I joined the team pretty recently, but I had a great chance to work on Atoms, which is the new synth plugin. So, a bit of thinking of myself as a bit of a product specialist insofar as there is one at BA for this. And yeah, just excited to talk about it and go through some of the features, maybe check out some sounds, maybe build something from scratch. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Fantastic. Well, I think we don't keep the people waiting any longer. I think we just jump right in and let them hear Atoms in action. And of course, along the way, we will be giving away a few copies. Baby Audio have blessed me with the power to do such things. And at Plugin Boutique with any questions, and we'll try to get them answered here on the stream. So we're going to flip over to your desktop now, Michael. And just a second. We are up and running. If you want to go ahead and just let us hear this thing in action.
Yeah, you getting some sound there?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'll just start by going through some patches if we want to check it out.
Nice. I'm going to turn my other light on. So go ahead and run through some patches while I turn this other light on.
Sure. So yeah, if you've seen any of the other stuff about Atoms, it is a physical modeling synthesizer. And that sort of gives it a bit of a unique sound in terms of some of the other stuff that's out there, certainly compared to subtractive synthesis, that kind of thing. And it really has a huge range. There's all kinds of stuff in here, from sort of those kinds of really active, interesting pads. Just going to play a few at random here. Can kind of sound really soft and quite pretty. And then it can also get kind of gnarly too. Let me see if I can find a good patch for that.
Love gnarly.
The basses are great. They can be really aggressive. There's some really nice movement in there, distortion. Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's just great. Really nice and active. Sound design, kind of, you can go crazy. Let's try some ambient stuff. Bit low there. It's really cool, like kind of evolving type textures too. Like it really is all about what's going on in terms of the motion and how
What happens when you let your hands off the keys with this one?
Yeah, let's check it out. So you get kind of a little bit of kind of animation to the decay.
Yeah, I thought I heard it like slur a little bit.
Yeah, there is a bit of slurring, and it's hard to exactly tell how that's happening per patch, but in most cases it's this chaos zone over here. So nonlinear behavior, basically that just sort of means this pitch glide detuning effect, which is a result of what's happening under the hood in the physics simulation. Maybe I can crank it up. See if there's a way. So yeah, as you go higher, it starts to really get quite seasick.
That's a really great explanation there.
Yeah. So yeah, you can kind of imagine all the cinematic stuff, film soundtracks. Like that's sort of what I hear when I listen to it. But of course, it's got everything in it. Let's see. What else can I show you? Anything you want to hear?
I think maybe some plucky stuff, some leads.
Yeah, let's check out that. So yeah, one of the interesting things, so the physical model that's underneath all of this is what's called a mass spring interaction network. So that's actually sort of it's like a system of interconnected points of inertia that have like a mass to them that are connected by virtual springs.
What was it called?
Mass spring interaction network, and it's actually kind of a pretty fresh approach to physical modeling.
It's also a great band name, I think.
Yeah, right. So yeah, There's also a bunch of different profiles. So the way it works under the hood is this sort of mass spring system that I was describing. It can be arranged in a couple of different, general arrangements for how the simulation runs, and they're represented down here. So the standard mode is kind of the main sound of the instrument, which is almost maybe the most sort of like musical and approachable. But then we can really drastically reduce the number of masses and springs in the system, and it results in a really cool lo-fi effect. And then, yeah, it's just interesting how that's all moving around in this particular patch.
It's so punk rock.
Yeah, in a way it is.
It reminds me of like indie punk rock from like the 90s. Like, I don't know, it's just got that kind of bite to it.
For sure. But yeah, it can also get really warm and really nice.
Let me ask you a question. So it's obviously got a really great looking UI. The modulation is very clear that that's having an effect on the audio. Does the representation in the middle of the UI actually correspond to processes happening, or is it just to kind of look cool?
So it absolutely does. Let me see if I can get it kicking again here. So yeah, if you look at sort of, you've got the points here. So those are the masses, and the connections actually represent the springs. So to be able to visualize it easily like this, we drastically scaled it down. I think in this profile there's about 100 connections, mass spring interaction connections. But we just see however many are there. So I guess it's 5, sort of pentagon type look. But there's one per key, which you can see there, and it does give you kind of a little bit of insight into the actual physics simulation, which I quite like.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about the sort of traces around?
You're looking at these guys, or
Nah, it's like a color trace light.
This.
Thin. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's just a UI element, but
Okay.
I think you're kind of hammering home the sort of nucleus, the atoms concept there,
Yeah. I mean, it looks great. It's also got like a light mode too, yeah?
Yes, so we do have a different UI theme because, sometimes you do need to switch it up if you're looking at your plugins for too long. I personally feel that. But yeah, I kind of feel like the dark mode almost gives me a little bit more of the vibe of the instrument. Maybe I've just been looking at it for so long at this point.
I prefer that one as well, so. Michael, we got quite a bit of questions coming in already. Do you think now's a good time to maybe bang some out before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Yeah, I'd love to hear some questions.
Okay, first one, easy one from Sean808, wondering, can you resize the UI?
I believe so, although it might be hampered right now by our live stream setup. I don't quite know. I have my screen zoomed in, so I'm not sure if it would work right now.
Okay.
I'll check that for you.
But it can be resized, yeah?
I believe so. There we go.
Yeah, I think we got it zoomed in so people can see it. So that's why it's acting a little crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the zoom there. If you can see it, maybe it's not working.
Okay. Yannick Lefebvre is wondering if there's going to be expansion packs available for Atoms at any point in the near future.
Yeah, so I believe so. So what we have right now, we have a single pack that it's shipped with. It's Radioactive by Zardonic, which is a great sound designer, really interesting stuff, kind of the darker side of the synth. But we're always looking to kind of create more patches, and there's a lot of possibility that hasn't been explored yet. So I'd say definitely, yeah, we're looking at expansions for sure.
Love it. And Wolfram Wolf is wondering if there are any sort of sequencer patches in there.
So there isn't like a traditional sequencer, the way you might see in something that has that on board, but there is a lot that you can do with the automation system. So, if you get into, and we'll cover this in a second for sure, but if we get into everything that you can really do, setting all of these controls in motion, it kind of almost can feel sequenced at times, especially with the different waves and the different LFO modes. So no traditional sequencer, but can be made to be in motion for sure.
All right. Now we have some more harder hitting questions.
Okay.
Michael Hopkins is saying, what exactly, maybe if you can boil down what makes Atoms so unique and worthwhile in such a crowded field of virtual synthesizers.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me personally, just having a synthesis method that is based on something that is kind of a new approach, especially in physical modeling, which I still think of it really as a bit of an unexplored frontier. Like, obviously there's classic instruments in every sort of field of synthesis, but I think there's still a lot left to be explored with Atoms and with this method, this mass spring interaction method. And I actually did quite a long interview. You can find it on the Baby Audio YouTube channel with the designer himself. And, it was sort of a crash course, almost like a university lecture on this concept. And we just taped it and we uploaded it because we thought, it would give people some insight into the claims that it is unique. And yeah, I think once you kind of get it in your head how it works and what that underlying model is, you can start to feel even in the sounds the sort of uniqueness.
Love it. You sold me. Well done. A couple more and then I'll let you continue on here. We got this is going to happen, and it happens every single stream that we do about a plugin, is how CPU intensive or resource hungry is Atoms?
So I think it might be a little more resource hungry than some. It's hard to tell. I mean, I always say it really comes down to your particular system. Like, I think I'm on a Mac Mini here in my studio, an M1 Mac Mini, and I'm running 5 instances of it in this session, and it was quite smooth. I think it's sort of a question of, you can push it hard. So, obviously calculating the physics, then nonlinear behavior, it's a little bit more, it just requires more than I guess sort of a subtractive style thing or a digital subtractive thing. So, it is possible that it could place a higher load on your system, but you really got to try it to see if it's going to be within your system's capabilities. So, I say don't be too afraid.
Oh yeah, I mean push it. Let's push it till it's on fire. That's what I say.
I remember the days of lower CPU capabilities, and things were quite different. So we're lucky now.
Stefan Federspiel is wondering if, I guess it's worded a little bit differently than I might ask it, but I think, can you automate the parameters in your DAW?
Yeah, I believe you can. I haven't dug into that as much because I've just been sort of playing with the internal stuff. The nice thing about the internal automation is you can sync it to the host. So if there's something you're specifically looking to do in terms of syncing to a tempo, you still don't need to necessarily resort to DAW automation. But I mean, it's a plugin like any other, so it's sort of conceivable that it could be automated in the same way as the rest of your plugin folder.
Nice one. And someone else just asked the question, but they didn't at Plugin Boutique, so I didn't get the name. But it's a great question, and that is there a randomization feature?
Absolutely there is, and that's a huge thing that we've leaned into a little bit, and we can click through it a little bit. So we have the Magic Dice, which It's not a pure randomization function, because I don't know if you ever use something that is just a raw randomization of parameters, but you often get combinations that are not sort of super usable. This is basically designed to give you something that'll more or less work. So, it's not going to be what you expect, but hopefully there's not going to be sort of like an incompatible setting where it's just going to squeal or make a ton of noise. I'll say that, and then it, yeah. And that's sort of, it's not like strictly speaking like an AI thing or anything like that. It's really just sort of like each parameter has kind of an awareness of what the others are doing. So there's sort of, I guess, hotspots of good combinations that are represented more in the randomization than things that we consider less pleasing sounding.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things. One, my full video was about how awesome the randomization feature is and how it delivers usable results pretty much every single time. There's also a less random button as well, isn't there? Like sort of the recycle button?
Exactly. So say we randomized our way to a sound and it was like, okay, this is great. I want to work with this, but it's not perfect, or for whatever reason, I want to make like a variation on it. You hit this recycle and it'll sort of give you a subtle tweak of the existing settings without really changing the vibe of the patch. So there's some of those characteristics of the previous one, that motion sort of tremolo effect, with just a little bit different of a tonality. And that's the other interesting thing there is with the randomization. So, there's often cases where maybe you don't want to randomize 100% of the available parameters. So that's for me in cases where, say, you worked on getting the attack and release correct for whatever setting it's in your session, then you can actually just lock those parameters, and that excludes them from the randomization. So I can go and, slam the recycle as many times as I want, and I'll still keep the same attack and release characteristics.
Love it. Let's do that. Let's randomize some things and see what comes out.
So yeah, let's say we want to keep it as like a pad, like a long attack and release time. We can just cycle through. Oh, hang on. Did I keep those locked? Yes, I did. Okay. So keeping those kind of pad-like attack and release characteristics, but just really going wild with everything else. So like if we like that, you can recycle, or recycle. And it's subtle, but it is a way to kind of get you into some different territory right away. Here's more randomization. Love the detune on that. Yeah, it's cool.
I think, I mean, I'm kind of looking for a delicate way to say it. I mean, there's definitely a style of music or a number of styles of music that are really going to use this style of synth. It just, I mean, I think my video was just like embrace the wonk. It's so wonky in such a good way. I love wonky. It's just got like that sort of, it's organic but not organic at the same time, sort of, and there's always some sort of like weird modulation happening that's just so pleasing.
I mean, I think there's just so many sort of traditional synth tools out there, and including BA1 from Baby Audio, which is like an amazing vintage modeled subtractive style of synth that a lot of people have their go-tos when it comes to that. I mean, for me, I'm almost like would rather use some hardware or something when it comes to that. But then
Sure.
There's really nothing that I have that can really get this sort of sound right off the bat. And that's the thing, like maybe it's not like for absolutely every single texture in a composition, but I think it can really bring something, especially if there's, a space for something a little bit new or a little bit edgier. And I'm quite excited to use it myself. So
well, yeah, I mean that's kind of you've really helped clarify my point here and my thought process. If you want to get sounds like this, you're going to have to throw like a multi-effect, like a RC20 on a synth to get it this way. But I feel like it's just giving us that out of the gate, which is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, even, some of the plucks and stuff, I think about trying to kind of program them with FM, and that would be a headache, Like you can get that kind of noisy attack characteristic, but it's just sort of not the same. And once the sounds from something like this take a little bit of time to grow on you, I find myself really excited about it.
Is that a preset you were just playing?
Yeah, this is a preset.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
It's good. And I think I got an arpeggiator on this track here. Yeah, so those kinds of plucks, and once you get them moving, there's a little bit of delay on there from, let's see, what did I get? Oops.
Yes, I could hear that. Those aren't built-in effects, are they?
So there's a built-in reverb, which I find really helpful, just sometimes, especially with sounds that are a little harder edged or aggressive. You got to put them in context a little bit to hear what's actually going on and whether it's going to work. So just being able to call up like a basic reverb there, pretty helpful for just choosing patches and looking through stuff. But I just got Comeback Kid here.
Nice.
And that's that kind of like realistic instrument sound that you can kind of get out of it. Like if you sort of squint your eyes a little bit, you can kind of feel like it might be some sort of plucked string instrument or that kind of thing.
It's got like an Asian pluck string. I don't forget the name of it. Was it mandolin? No, can't be.
Yeah, I think that there's shamisen. That's what this that's what this preset's called. So maybe that's what.
Let's get a link to Comeback Kid though. That's another great baby audio plugin.
Oh yeah, this is great. And I always need. I feel like when I'm doing stuff with synths and sequenced lines, like I always just need a delay to kind of kick stuff back and help make the patterns more interesting. And Comeback Kid, it's just got it's really sort of straightforward, but it's got a great sort of set of tone shaping things, and it's been out for a while, but I still use it quite a lot. Turn it up a bit. So yeah, it starts to get really kind of soundtracky and spacey right away.
Yeah, love it. I mean, the other thing that it kind of, I mentioned RC20, but was it VHS is a pretty great way to lo-fi some stuff too, which is another baby audio favorite of mine.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have it on an Adams track here. So yeah, I just did sort of like a few patches basically isolated to a little beat here, but the idea of doing kind of like almost like an atmospheric thing, as like a break in a tune with a ton of lo-fi stuff on it. It just feels really fun. So yeah, maybe we can listen to more of this because that's just one aspect. But
you know what? I was just thinking while I mentioned the VHS plugin, which is absolutely fantastic for lo-fi-ification. We have a free plugin. I think it's called the Magic Button, which is like the main button in the middle of that magic button. We actually have a free version of that on Plugin Boutique. I think Killian's going to throw a link. If you're watching the stream and you don't have it yet, you should definitely check it out if you don't have the full version of Super VHS, because it's just a great way to get some lo-fi sounds.
Yeah, and I love the one button plugin. I'm
anything that saves me time in the process, I'm a fan of 100%.
Cool. Well, yeah, maybe I'll play through some of this because, yeah, it's sort of interesting. I got a few things on here. I got transit, but maybe we can just listen through and I'll bring in some elements.
Nice.
So yeah, that's that plucked sound that I just couldn't get enough of it when I put it on there, and just getting a nice dotted eighth delay from Comeback Kid, and that's sounding really cool. Kind of like almost like a video game vibe. Bring in some bass. And that's one of those kind of like really active sort of bass lines, bass patches, I should say. And there's my atmosphere. It's just super psychedelic. It's kind of real simple. Just can really hear what the patch is doing. And it's one of these kind of more atmospheric pads. I think there's there's crystalline on that one. Let's just play that a few more times. So yeah, algorithmic reverb, just kind of, I think I have the Adams reverb on there too. Yeah. It's kind of extending it. Yeah, I could listen to that all day. Like that's sort of what I would reach for this.
Yeah,
this
those pads right there are nice.
Have like a train whistle thing going on too.
Ruben Holzbosch is saying that the Baby Audio UIs really stick out to him and or to them, and I have to agree. They're just really pleasing to look at. Like that crystal line looks amazing.
Oh yeah, it's great. And I mean, you know, I think it speaks a lot to how you use a tool where, you know, if you're just looking at a row of faders or something, it doesn't give you the same sort of inspiration or creative direction. And I think the UI stuff is, you know, it's great to have something that really feels like you want to experiment with it as soon as you see it.
Yeah, 100%. I love, you know, even the shapes and how it changes the values. It just looks so smooth.
Yeah, and then there's even some kind of a little bit of a tactile look here where these sort of look like they could be buttons, you know, not complete hardware emulation, but just sort of a look like you might have a fun time, like if you had it in your studio and you were hands-on with it, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of weird to talk about UI when what the plugin does with the, you know, the sound is way more important, but for if you have to look at a plugin all day, you want to look at it and have your eyes be like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? Rather than a chore to look at. It's such a key piece to the puzzle.
Oh, for sure.
And I just want to say that we just put a link to the free Magic Switch plugin. You 100% got to go grab it if you don't have it.
So yeah, that's the pad, but I just changed the profile to lo-fi. So it just kind of gives you, even with the different modes here, it gives you basically 4 different flavors to really spice something up really quickly. And like these are all usable to me. I feel like these all sound really cool. The inharmonic one, let's hear that. Oh yeah, that's the one it was on. Oh yeah, and it stops the voices when you do that.
Michael, we had a few people wondering. I know we kind of got into the fact that the visualization in the middle of the synth is actually corresponding to some of the things that are happening in the background, but people are wondering, do the shapes represent something? Because as obviously you flip through the profiles, they change obviously, and is that representing anything beyond the fact that it's what profile you're using?
I think it's just sort of a different way of representing the behavior that we have there. This is the one that I really sort of understand, which is the way the nodes are connected by the springs. And that's just a scaled down version of what's actually happening inside, which is, you know, in the case of the standard profile, I think it's 100 nodes and springs that are interacting. And then lo-fi, I think it's 25. So obviously it's a reduction and, we go from a pentagon to a triangle or whatever, and then it's a little bit simplified in terms of how the boundaries look. So I think we tried to make sort of some cues towards it, but, and it is using the actual simulation data to kind of accomplish that visualization. But it's not exactly one-to-one, but it's representative.
Nice. Keep your questions coming at Plugin Boutique with them, and we'll try to get them answered here on the stream with the product specialist, Michael Hahn from Baby Audio. Also, keep and be active in the chat because we're going to give away a couple of copies of Atoms at the end of the stream. And all you need to do to be entered to win is be active and positive in the chat. Yes.
Yeah, right? Just
Yes.
kind of some of those plucked subtle sounds are cool too. That's the really seasick stuff.
What's funny is I was, trying to think of why I gravitate to these sort of sounds, and it's almost like it's got distortion and saturation built into it without adding saturation and distortion after it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there is sort of a few sources of the noisiness component of the signal. So the first one is this drive control, which I forget exactly what it is. It's some kind of a wave shaping function, but it's there basically to just help bring some of the harmonics that it can create out. So obviously when you're adding saturation, you're increasing harmonics in the top end. So this overtones control also, it sort of controls where along the mass spring network the source of excitation is. So the way this all works is that it's sort of the network of springs is there, but to actually make sound with it, it has to be excited by like a sound source, essentially, or like an energy source, I guess, technically. And in the case of Atoms, it's like a virtual bow. So just like a real violin, if you were to bow closer to the bridge, you kind of get a sharper, more sort of like rich in upper overtones kind of a sound. You can kind of hear it a little bit hard with this patch. And then the force is the application of the virtual bow. So the idea being that if you were to bow really hard on the strings, you get more of this noisy sound because of the friction. And then if you were to bow softer, it's kind of almost like starves it a little bit of the excitation source. So between those two combinations, there's so much you can explore, like what overtones come out and like how much noise is in the signal and how much fundamental. And I don't know, I think it's a really kind of a clever way to get at a bunch of physical modeling parameters without really getting into too many different individual controls. And then, yeah, if there's drive, just kind of excites those harmonics a little bit more.
Oh, it sounds so good.
It's cool, right? And then if it's ever too much, you can, this is a traditional low-pass filter that you can just kind of get some taming of that top end. Similar to this order control, kind of going a little haywire with the modulation right now, but basically what that controls a damping factor in the springs themselves. So it's almost sort of like another way of achieving a low-pass filter where the springs lose energy faster. So it's kind of just a built-in tone shaper. Once you kind of get the hang for the interaction between everything, it's really fun to mess around with, and you just get really excited. So that you can hear I'll turn this up a bit. You can hear the damping factor where it's sort of low passing a bit of the high end. It's coming back as you bring it out. And it looks like we got some filter action on there too, which is cool. Okay. Getting,
I mean, it sounds
getting really into that loop there.
It sounded great though. I was into it. Yeah, I mean, we got a couple more questions if you want to get them out of the way, and then we can move on to the next part here.
Sure.
Fog Various is wondering, can you limit the note poly on it?
Yes, so there is a mono mode, which is fun for some of the basses and leads, where you'll obviously have typical sort of monophonic behavior. And then I think the voice limit is actually 8, the way it's configured right now, just because of we don't want to annihilate anyone's computer. But yeah, there's the mono mode is handy for basses and leads and stuff.
Perhaps if you want to walk us through maybe that whole section you just used to activate the mono, because there was a question, again, they didn't add Plugin Boutique, so I don't remember the name, but someone was wondering if it was MPE compatible, and it is. Well, what are those other functions there next to the MPE switch?
So just a quick note on MPE there. So we do have an MPE implementation. Right now, it is limited to polyphonic aftertouch for as a source. So if I turn the MPE on, these motion automation menus get MPE as a modulation source, and I don't have a poly aftertouch controller here, so I can't actually demonstrate it very very easily. But we also have the MPE node independent pitch bend. And I think those are the only 2 things that are in there for now, but we've seen people be really quite excited about the MPE features. So, who knows what could happen in the future. Maybe we get deeper into it.
Nice. And what about those other switches up there?
So we have a global tuning, which, because of all the different sources of detuning and modulation and the way, I forget exactly, but I think even without the chaos engaged, you can get some amount of detuning just in by how the parameters are set. So this allows you to have a global tune, which just you can bring it up or down to make sure it's in tune with the rest of your track.
Nice.
And then there is this eco mode, which if anyone is really struggling, CPU wise, you can enable that. And I forget exactly how it works, but it simplifies the model underneath to make sure that it's more compatible. I think I still have mono on there. Kind of has its own sound too, which is sort of interesting. Oh yeah, it disables the chaos because the nonlinear stuff is what adds additional complexity.
Okay.
But then it also does something in the simulation itself. Okay, yeah, then moving on, I think we have the tooltips here. So that's just, kind of helpful to mouse over the parameters and see what they do. There's a panic button just in case everything goes haywire, and then the light dark theme.
Can I just get the panic button as a standalone that I can carry around?
Yeah, really. Hey?
Fantastic. Some other people were wondering if you have any maybe synth presets that are your favorites that we might be able to check out. Really go through a bunch, the whole scope of the different categories and stuff, so we can hear the whole range of what's capable.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, when I was putting this together, I was looking for a pad sound, and I actually just was like, yes, this default preset, the first one in the list, is pretty impressive. Hang on, that's my... I'll do it on this instance. Yeah. Just reset it in case anything had changed. So yeah, that's the kind of the train whistle thing. So I thought that was great. I think I tweaked it a little bit, but that's just one of those things where you can kind of feel the action of the bow itself, and this is one of the things that's interesting about the attack and release controls is, they're actually they're not like a VCA based ADSR the way you would see in like a subtractive synth or something. They're actually in the model itself. So this sort of controls the velocity with which the bow gets applied to the strings.
Can you just slide the UI towards the middle, please?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Maybe kill a bit of the reverb there. So all the way to 0 is sort of a direct application of the bow, where, you know, up here it's more kind of a legato style, like, you know, gently starting the bowing action. And then same with the release. The release is the system-wide damping factor. So if you turn it up, I think it's close to infinite decay. And that basically simulates like a zero damping situation. So that's, you know, one of the things we were really interested in with this plugin was trying to, you know, model a physical process that existed in the real world, but also go way beyond into things that couldn't be possible in an acoustic instrument. And something like strings having a 0% damping factor, I think basically is that. You could never have that in reality.
Noel Webster is saying nicely haunting sounds, and I have to agree. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, we were kind of trying to come up with like, how are we going to communicate what this sounds like? And yeah, haunting, eerie, organic, kind of alien but familiar. That's all kind of what we were identifying there.
Yeah, it's like organically inorganic, I'd say.
Exactly. I like the basses too. I think the bass sounds are kind of interesting. I don't know if I have one that's awesome off the bat, but you know, they just have a little more action, and then the attacks are really clean in a way that I like. Let me try and find one that it's a little odd on its own sometimes if you're not used to that kind of thing, but it sounds cool in a mix, I find. I think this one is... Oh, I think I went and changed everything here, so maybe my original track is a little lost to the winds, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, let me see what else. There's a lot of great sort of atmospheric presets in here. The pads, we checked them out. They're really cool. I mean, you know, I could probably go through every one and be excited about it, but let's see if we can find a nice yeah, some of these effects.
Yeah, horror movie. I mean,
Horror movie, like space age, like, yeah.
No, I mean that's
I think
horror.
that's
I mean, it's a
cool.
horror. I'm in a spaceship. Something's going on. We're going to another dimension. It's not nice.
Yeah, I like when something has sort of enough capability around the edges that it can actually get into that territory, because I know there are some people who are really, really down to explore that. The evolving stuff like that, I think, is really cool. Just, you know, the way things can unfold over like kind of a long amount of time.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, what's the term for it? It's like the Hans Zimmer thing, like the Brahm.
Yeah.
I think we have one. Anyway, yeah, that kind of thing. Those kinds of keys. Yeah, I'm trying to see what else. Yeah, this radioactive pack is phenomenal from Zardonic.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's got so much character to it.
It does, yeah. Trying to maybe find some leads that are kind of cool. So yeah, there's the mono mode. those kinds of things can happen as well.
Michael, Mesut Ute is wondering if this works in FL Studio.
It will work in any major DAW, that's for sure.
Love it. Love it, love it. All right, everybody, send your final questions at Plugin Boutique, and we'll try to get them answered here on the stream. And of course, now's a good time to be active in the chat, because we're going to be giving away a couple copies of this bad boy, Atoms from Baby Audio. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, maybe I can cover the motion system a little bit, because this patch is a little more static. So essentially, all of these 6 core parameters have this same sort of motion menu. And you can basically pick a waveform from, you've got a couple of options there, sine and saw, as well as this drift, which is actually a mass spring network itself, which is kind of interesting. It's sort of like, that's the modulation source, also coming from that same sort of synthesis concept. And that basically walks up and down in sort of a unpredictable pattern. You can change the rate here, and that'll give you kind of some of these almost more random kind of fluctuations of the parameters. You can also set a range for the parameters to modulate within. So, if you don't want to have the whole availability, like obviousobviously if, you're sweeping that really fast, it can kind of get a little crazy. See if I can get it a little more. There we go. So, if you just want to sweep a smaller range, let me see if I can get it going here. Of course, you can sync that to the DAW tempo, invert the direction that it goes. And then there's these 3 LFO modes. So we have the free LFO, so that just runs continuously. Retrigger, which let's see, restarts every time you play. And then the hold, so that's 1 cycle of the LFO. So you almost get some envelope-like behavior out of that LFO with those couple of extra modes.
Love that.
And then you can really easily, say for example, you like what you've got in terms of a particular modulation, you can just drag it over to another parameter. You'll get exactly the same curve. And then what's kind of fun is you can invert. So you can have 2 related parameters that are going in opposite directions. And it's almost sort of like being able to do some mod matrix stuff, but in a really intuitive way.
So much movement happening.
Yeah, once you once all of these get going, it really is evolving. And if you get it going really slow, it's like a total soundscape machine where you can just really get something that unfolds over a long period.
Brilliant. You think there's anything else that's worth covering?
Yeah. So on the note of movement and modulation, so we have these 3 parameters in the bottom panel, and they also, just like attack and release, correspond to stuff that's within the physical model. So modulation, so vibrato is the pickup position. So it's like where you listen along the string, basically. And the interesting thing about that is that, spring stiffness. That's modulation. Let me back up there. Yeah, so this is the stiffness of the springs, and it turns out if you vary that up and down, you actually get a vibrato style effect. Let's see if I can. So that's the speed on that side, and then the intensity. So it's not like some kind of effect that's put on after the synth engine. It's actually inside of the synth, and it's kind of a unique take on vibrato.
Awesome.
Same with the modulation here. It's like this is the pickup location, and it produces almost kind of like a chorus type of a sound. A little bit hard to tell because our patch is so active. It just kind of adds a little bit of extra modulation. You know, you might not even need to have effects on top of it. Yeah, and then this one, movement, is, so it's like it's almost like an amplitude modulation thing that comes from the kind of depth and speed of the bowing action. So if I turn the speed down and the depth up, let's see what we get. Yeah, so almost kind of like a tremolo type thing, which is just the bow going back and forth across the mass spring network.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it just speaks to the quality of it, you know? I mean, I'm just getting so many, it's just bringing me to places, the different sounds, you know? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun to play around with.
That was definitely dystopian sci-fi. We all need panic buttons running around with us. Standalone panic buttons.
Yeah, really.
All right. Well, listen. I know you're a busy person. I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm sure you've got a full day ahead of you over there on the East Coast. But thanks for coming by and letting us hear Atoms in all its glory. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hey, thank you. It's been really fun. It's been great to be here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's give away 2 copies of it to 2 lucky people who've been involved in the stream today. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to have my friend Killian, who's helping me on the stream, send me the names he's been collecting of people who have been active and positive in the chat. I've got 5 names here, and I need you to give me, let me just make a notepad here. The way we do this is we get 5 random names of people who are active and positive in the chat, Michael, and then I have my guest give me the 2 numbers. So in this case, 2 numbers between 1 and 5 that are your favorite, and those will be our winners for today.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay, ready for 2 numbers between 1 and 5? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what I need. Yep.
Okay, so how about 2 and 3?
2 and 3, nice. Nice. All right. I mean, you've done it. Well done. I mean, that was the hardest part of today, wasn't it? All right, the winners of today's giveaway, courtesy of Baby Audio, they're going to be winning a copy of the brand new synth Atoms, are The Key Crafter and Sean 808.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got quite a weak applause here button on my stream thing. I had one, Michael, that was just so long. It was like a standing ovation applause, and it took like 30 seconds to get through. And now I have one that's just so weak. It's like a couple of people like not enthusiastically clapping. I really need to find the medium, the happy medium between the two, I think.
Nice.
Anywho, thank you so much for coming through. We will send lots of people to check this synth out. And anytime you want to come back on, new product, or just to come on to hang, just let me know. You've got my contact. We'd be happy to have you.
Nice. Well, maybe we'll see you again.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joshua Casper from Plug & Boutique. That's Michael Hahn from Baby Audio. And we will see you in the next stream. Have a great night.
Ragamuffin keep on rising to the top. Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. Hey, why? International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place where they want Jamalski. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and over the mic incredible. I'll be right part of the rhythm, move with the rhythm, I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow me. Cool, you know you love her for your life. We jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm and I move with the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place where they want Jamalski.